Um,
Hi.
Steve, can we just do a quick round of introductions before we start? Would that be okay?
I'm happy to, yes.
Okay. So I'm Jahan Zeb, and I work with an organization called Umeed Child Development Center. Most of my work is with children and families, but I've also been exploring narrative practices for almost 20 years now in teaching and training, and I'm really excited. I love people and I love connecting with people, so I'm excited for this opportunity today. Pratma?
Hi, everyone. My name is Prathma, and I'm from a city called Hyderabad in the south of India. And I live in Kathmandu, Nepal right now. I work at a school as a school counselor, and I also have like a private practice where I work with children, families, and adults. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to having this conversation with everyone. Ravi.
Hi, my name is Ravi Raj, and people often call me Ravi. It's easier to pronounce it. I'm an occupational therapist. I'm part of Umeed Child Development Center, a not-for-profit which works with children and families. And I use narrative practices in my work, and I'm a teacher and a supervisor of narrative practices. I live with my parents and my sister in a suburb of Bombay. And we are originally from a coastal community in the south of India, Karnataka. And that's where my roots are. And I love people, just like Jay. And I believe in magic and unicorns very strongly. So that's who I am. Darshana, will you introduce
Hi.
yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Darshana, and I study economics, and I love to make new friends, and I love to travel. I love fashion. I love to dress up, and yeah, that's it. That's it. And yep. Hello.
Thanks, Darshana. सारिका तू तुझं इंट्रोडक्शन करणार का तू कोण आहे थोडंसं सांग ना सारिका अनम्यूट कर ना म्यूट कर ठीक हाँ ओके शेअर
Hmm.
तू स्वतःबद्दल थोडंसं सांगणार का खाली तुझं नाव आणि तू काय करतेस
Oh. मेरा नाम सारिका है और मैं दादरा नगर हवेली से हूँ और मैं मेरे गांव पहले ट्यूशन क्लास लेती थी और अभी मैं उम्मीद में सीडीए का ट्रेनिंग लेके अभी मेरे स्वच्छता में प्रेमांकुर स्वच्छता में काम करती हूँ
थँक्स सारिका
Shubha, will you go next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Shubha. I'm from Kathmandu, Nepal. And actually, like India, Nepal border dispute. So having this collaborative session together with people from India and Nepal is actually really nice. It's actually, yeah, like I'm really enjoying this. In terms of my work, I work in an organization called Body and Data. And we work in the intersection of gender, sexuality, and technology. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Hello everyone, my name is Shahid and I work with an organization called Amishan. My work is based, I primarily work with children. I work with
Please, थोड़ा mic के नजदीक जाओ. You are very soft. Maybe it's the internet. I don't know. Shall we start and maybe, yeah.
Jahanzeb, should we just say a quick introduction about how we know each other?
Sure, absolutely. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, one of my hopes for the storython was, you know, new relationships and new possibilities and new hopes. I hadn't anticipated reconnecting after 20 years of time have passed. So I had forgotten that we had been together in Boston for so long ago. And so it's just amazing to reconnect with you. And I'm so happy about that.
I think it's the same for me, Steve. It's been sort of so many years that we've had a face-to-face conversation, but that I think of you often, you know, and my sort of my first introduction to narrative ideas and just the space I think that you created in that classroom is something I carry with me into many spaces. So thank you.
Well, your team has already taught me something. I'm gonna start declaring what I love all the time. It was so moving to hear that. So thank you for that. And now I'll step back and let you all have your conversation.
Ravi?
Sorry, I got confused. So with me, I invited two guests and two really special people who have influenced me and my work significantly. And I'm going to start first with introducing Darshana and how I and Darshana met. So Darshana has been part of Umeed for a really long time, but I met her in the last 2 years particularly. Like we've said or smiled at each other in the waiting room of Umeed very often. But we never had a conversation until we started working on a project together. There was a project that I and Yashna, one of the other team members, started together called Jugaad. And Jugaad was about, Jugaad is a Hindi colloquial word, which means life hacks, the way you hack life. So we wanted to understand how do young people, what kind of life hacks they have to responding to injustices that they are facing in their experiences of life, and how do they respond. So Darshana was one of the young people who mentored us in making of this book that became Jugaad, stories of 14 young people, and she was one of them. And since then, Darshana has been an integral part of Umeed and of my life and Yashna's life. So that's why Darshana is here. And Darshana, I was thinking what story to share. And I was reminded of the International Narrative Practices Conference that we did in India, where Darshana went up on the stage to do a stand-up comedy act about her experiences of how people see her, her experience of disability and cerebral palsy, and how people see it. And she is amazing. She makes it really cut. And I will take this conversation to her. Darshana, do you want to start with what has it been like for you?
I think it has been amazing. It has been difficult, but I try to make it amazing. I always try to have fun in life, but I think in our Indian society, um, people look at people with disability in a very
different manner, and they look at us in a very weird way, in a very sympathetic way, or in a very, like, it is very overwhelming for us sometimes, at least for me. And but yeah, I think life goes on. I have accepted it. I got used to it, and now I have fun with it. As you said that I did a stand-up comedy, so now it's very funny for me to take all that. Yes.
Is there, are there some experiences you can share with us? Like I remember some from the stage and laughing out loud.
Yes.
Can you share one or two of those experiences?
Yeah, I'm from Mumbai, and you know, so in Mumbai, the travel is a very complicated thing. So in travel, in local buses, in local cabs, uh, the people show very much sympathy, but when we really need help, they will not come forward. Like when we really need it, and we don't need it, they show sympathy, like, oh, she's disabled, or she is something like this, or different. So yeah, like some small things like this.
Is there a story you can share about that one?
Yes. So every time when I take local cab, uh, the cab. So it is very difficult to find cab in Mumbai, and as I said in the comedy, that yeah, it is very difficult. But if one cab comes, he says that, oh, I took you on ride because you are disabled, and he shows sympathy. But when I tell him that I want to go here, this is my destination, he rejects me. Like he says, "Oh, I can't go in that area. That is, it has a very much traffic or something like that." And so I think you took me because I'm disabled, and now you can't see my disability. So it's like that. And yeah.
Thanks, Darshana. Uh, Darshana, we have been also, both of us at some point spoke
Yes.
about your experience as a woman and disability, a young woman and disability. What has that been like for you?
So as a woman, as a disabled woman, I think there like as such I didn't ever experience uh, something tragic or something like that. I got amazing friends. I got amazing people around me till now, and but I feel when I walk on the road, when I, get dressed up and walk on the road, the people see me in a very different manner, and I can, recognize it that they are seeing me in a different manner, and I get I said, I think that why they are seeing me. Am I looking good? Am I looking bad? Is it because of my disability? It is it because I'm overcoming all this and I'm going dress up, or so I think about it, and I didn't got any answer because I can't go and ask any stranger that why you seeing me. So yes.
Yeah. And how do you respond to that? Because obviously that, like we've spoken about it, how it
Hmm.
affects you. How
Yes.
do you respond to that?
I think I never responded till now. I think I don't need to respond. I just ignore bad things and take good things, concentrate on positivity. I think that is very important in life. Not for disabled, not for disabled people, but I think for all of us. I think people do judge, and it's okay to be judged.
Darshana, the other
Mm.
thing that has been an integral part of our conversations and your work with Umeed has been about mental health.
Yes.
What is it? What would you want to talk about mental health of disabled young women in our country?
Okay. So in 2016, I got diagnosed with a clinical depression and anxiety disorder, and it was very difficult for me, like any other person, and it's and when it comes to mental health, I think then disability or normal people, it doesn't work. I think mental health is one for everyone. Depression is like a same thing for everyone, but it is very difficult to live with it and to experience it. Um, and the journey went on. I was not knowing what I was going through, and then I explored that I had depression, I had anxiety disorder, and then I took therapy, then I took medication, and this story goes on. Like
And sorry, you were saying
yeah,
something.
yeah, like I can go in deep, but yeah, yeah.
And what have you discovered in terms of little things, very little things, or your jugards to 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 mental health?
So so I did Jugaad because it was like when I was suffering from depression and anxiety, I used to read articles of people who already went through it or going through it, and that after reading those articles, I used to I used to feel some kind of relaxation or some kind of satisfaction that, oh, I'm not alone, and even I wanted to do it, that even someday even I will support some people. And then Jugaad came, and I think Jugaad, that's the same thing. So I went on for Jugaad, and my Jugaads are um, little things, meditation and exercising, eating yummy food, coming to meet, taking therapy, meeting all of you, meeting my friends, and yeah.
And Darshana, maybe a last question. If you had to give a suggestion or suggestions, uh, there's surely suggestions uh,
Okay.
for able-bodied people in this world or around you. What would that be? That they should change about themselves, like ourselves.
Okay. So I think the, the most important thing that I learned, experienced, or whatever I value in my life is, I think, self-love and self-confidence. I think you should love yourself like anything, and you should accept yourself however you are. You are in wheelchair, you are on wheelchair, you are disabled, you are able, however you are. You should first accept yourself. You however you are perfect because God made you like that. And like there is no better version of you than this, what you are. So accept yourself, love yourself, and give your best in every way, anywhere you go in life, and hard work, and that's it. I think these three, four things will take you in life. And be
Thank you.
happy. And be
Sorry.
happy. Sorry. So yeah, be happy and always find happiness in everything and wherever you go. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Darshana.
Welcome. Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Do you want to say anything else?
No, I think that's it. And yeah, I don't want to say anything. Yep.
Okay.
You want to ask anything? Like,
I
I don't know.
You know that both of us can have a really long conversation. I can ask you any much questions and you can
I
ask.
know. Yes, and you also know that I can keep talking. Yeah.
Thank you, Darshana. So, Darshana, what I'm going to do is now I'm going to talk to Sarika, and then Jay is going to talk to Prathama is going to talk to Shubha, and then Jay is going to talk to Shahid. And then we'll come back to each of and us asking what stood out to us about each other's stories, and then just take it from there.
Okay. Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I move on to the next guest, the second guest, who's been very, very influential again, somebody who has I met her 2 years back. Her name is Sarika. And Sarika, I remember meeting her in her village, Parjai, which is a village in a union territory of Dadra Nagar Haveli, which is on the west coast of India. And I went to meet her as a part of a project, a collaboration between an organization there and Umeed. And we were taken to Sarika's home where she was running a tuition class for young children. And they were all playing and learning poetries and songs when I met her. And we went to meet her because she was chosen as a candidate to learn about child development and disability and was also chosen because she was already a leader within her village. And it's been a journey of 2 years with her. She's now a community health worker in her village and one of the youngest leaders in her community. She works with families and children with developmental delays and disabilities, and she works with the mental health of the community. In the last 1 year, she has been exploring narrative practices. We have been doing that together, and she's a larger part of an organization called Animed Trust and Premankur. And with Sarika and I are going to have this conversation in Hindi, and we'll do the translation later, I think, as after the recording is done, as a part of the editing. So, Sarika, तू अनम्यूट करना है.
हाँ सर.
कशी आहेस? आपण हिंदी मध्ये बोलूया. सॉरी, कैसी है सारिका?
अच्छी हूँ.
और तो कुछ अपने बारे में बताएगी, अपने काम के बारे में, अपने लाइफ के बारे में, जो भी तेरे को शेयर.
मैं दादरा नगर हवेली में रहती हूँ और मैं एक आदिवासी हूँ. हमारे समाज में ज्यादातर करके सब लोग आदिवासी है और हमारा जो आदिवासी लोग है वो जैसे कि हमारे दादरा नगर हवेली में पहले तो छोटे छोटे गांव है और वो गांव पूरे जंगल, पेड़ पौधे और पशु पक्षियों से भरे हुए हैं. और हमारे दादरा नगर हवेली में ज्यादातर करके आदिवासी लोग हैं, इसीलिए जो जंगल, पेड़ पौधे ये सब है उनसे सबको बहुत प्यार है और मुझे भी बहुत प्यार है. मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है जैसे कि जो पशु पक्षियों रहते हैं, तो वो जैसे हमारे घर के सदस्य है वैसे रहते हैं। जैसे कि कोई भी इंसान या किसी के भी साथ हम लोगों का बहुत बड़ा रिश्ता रहता है, वैसे ही हमारे दादरा नगर हवेली के लोगों का, समाज का पशु पक्षियों के साथ, पेड़ पौधों के साथ रिश्ता है। क्योंकि हमारे इधर जैसे हम लोग घर का कोई बड़ा सदस्य जो काम करता है और घर चलाता है, वैसे ही हमारे समाज में काम तो करते ही हैं, लेकिन उसके अलावा भी जो पेड़ पौधे हैं, जो पशु पक्षियां हैं, जानवर है, वो हम लोगों की मदद करते हैं। जैसे कि हम लोग शेतकरी है, खेती करते हैं, तो जो पशु है, बैल गाय ये से वो, तो जैसे हम लोग काम तो करते हैं, लेकिन हमारा ज्यादातर करके हम लोग खेती पे डिपेंड रहते हैं। क्योंकि हम लोग खेती नहीं करेंगे तो कुछ भी नहीं। क्योंकि अम, अम, जैसे कि खेती करना हमारा एक बहुत बड़ा काम रहता है। और मैं भी एक वैसी शेतकरी हूँ। और हमारे इधर पूरे मिट्टी के घर है। अभी किसी किसी के हैं, लेकिन ज्यादातर करके पूरे मिट्टी और लकड़ी के घर हैं। और मेरा भी वैसा ही घर है, तो उसमें बहुत अच्छा लगता है। और मेरे घर पे भी गाय बैल ये सब बहुत थे पहले, लेकिन अभी इतने नहीं है। लेकिन बैल पशु पक्षी ये है, तो मुझे उनसे बहुत प्यार है। जैसे कि मेरे पापा, मेरे घर की कहानी बता दूं। जैसे कि मेरे घर पे पापा कमाता है तो हमारा घर चलता है। वैसे ही जो गाय बैल है, उनसे भी हमारा बहुत बड़ा रिश्ता है। जैसे मेरा पापा के साथ दूसरे लोगों, रिश्तेदारों के साथ, सब लोगों के साथ रिश्ता है, वैसे ही उनके साथ भी रिश्ता है। क्योंकि जो लोग बाकी के लोग हैं जो हमारी मदद करते हैं, वैसे ही जो पशु पक्षी हैं वो भी बहुत मदद करते हैं। जैसे कि जब हम लोग खेती करते हैं, तब वो बैल से हम लोग नांगर करते हैं। तो वो पशु बैल नहीं रहेगा तो हमारा खेती का काम नहीं होगा। और खेती का काम नहीं होगा तो हम लोगों के लिए जीने के लिए बहुत दिक्कतें आएंगी। तो वैसे ही जैसे कि कोई घर का बड़ा सदस्य है जो कभी बीमार पड़ता है, तो वही सब कमाता है। और हम लोगों को बाद में रोजमर्रा के जीवन में खाने के लिए, पीने के लिए बहुत दिक्कतें आते हैं। तो हम बहुत चिंतित रहते हैं कि वो कब अच्छा होगा, उसको कैसा लगता होगा। ऐसे हम लोग किसी मानव के बारे में बहुत चिंतित रहते हैं। वैसे ही मुझे मेरे पशु पक्षियों से भी बहुत चिंता होती है। कभी उनको कुछ होता है तो बहुत बुरा लगता है। जैसे किसी मानव को कुछ होता है, वैसे ही मुझे उन लोगों को कुछ होता है तो बहुत बुरा लगता है। क्योंकि उनके वजह से ही हमारा पूरा घर चलता है। जैसे कि कोई मानव है, वो तो बोल सकता है कि मुझे ये हुआ है, मुझे यहाँ दर्द होता है, तो हम लोग उसका इलाज कर सकते हैं। लेकिन जो पशु पक्षी है, वो कुछ भी नहीं बोल पाते हैं, तो भी वो उनका दर्द मुझे महसूस होता है। क्योंकि मैं छोटी थी तब से उनसे जुड़ी हुई हूँ। और मैं बहुत प्यार करती हूँ उन सब से। मेरा गांव पाचाही गांव है, तो उधर भी बहुत सारा जंगल है, पशु पक्षी हैं। तो मुझे उन सबसे बहुत प्यार है। जैसे कि मुझे किसी की भी मदद करना बहुत अच्छा लगता है, इंसानों की, वैसे ही मुझे पशु पक्षियों की भी मदद करना बहुत अच्छा लगता है। और अम, जैसे कि किसी भी मानव के साथ बहुत अच्छा रिश्ता बनता है, और वो कभी हमसे टूट जाता है तो बहुत बुरा लगता है। वैसे ही हमारा भी पूरे जंगलों के साथ, पेड़ पौधों के साथ, पशु पक्षियों के साथ रिश्ता रहता है। और वो कभी कोई ऐसा बीमार पड़ता है उसमें से, या ऐसा कोई एक प्यारा सा पौधा रहता है और वो किसी ने तोड़ दिया, तो उस बहुत बुरा लगता है। क्योंकि हम लोग उसे छोटा रहता है तब से बड़ा करते हैं और फिर उसे तोड़ देते हैं। या फिर ऐसा कोई जानवर है जो बीमार पड़ता है तो भी बहुत बुरा लगता है। वो एक अलग ही फीलिंग होती है कि हम लोग उसका कैसे मदद करें। और ऐसा मैं बहुत उनसे जुड़ी हुई हूँ।
सारिका, तेरी बेस्ट फ्रेंड के
Thank
बारे में
you.
बोलना थोड़ा,
हाँ सर।
जिसके साथ तू व्हाट्सएप पे स्टेटस पे फोटोज डालती है, जो तेरा बैंगन का पेड़ खा गई थी लास्ट टाइम।
और मेरे घर में एक जो बेल है वो मेरा बेस्ट फ्रेंड है। उसका नाम उसका नाम मोरी है। और जैसे मैंने बोला कि मैं बहुत प्यार करती हूँ जानवरों से, ऐसा तो मैं उनसे बहुत प्यार करती हूँ। तो जो है ना वो मोरी है ना, वो मतलब जैसे कि इंसान जैसा ही, जैसे उसे कुछ दर्द होता होगा, ऐसे कुछ लगता होगा तो रोता है। तो फिर हम लोग तो इंसानों के तो जाके गले लगते हैं कि नहीं तो कुछ बताते हैं कि चुप रह जा, नहीं तो दवाई कुछ करते हैं तो उनको अच्छा लगता है, फिर हॉस्पिटल में लेके जाते हैं। लेकिन वो तो इतना बड़ा ये रहता है तो उसको कैसे लेके जाएंगे। तो मुझे बहुत बुरा लगता है उसे कुछ होता है तो कि उसको कैसे सुधारे, क्योंकि वो तो इतना बड़ा है, वो उनको तो उठा भी नहीं पाती हूँ मैं तो। लेकिन तो भी मैं कुछ कर नहीं पाती हूँ, लेकिन उसे कुछ भी होता है तो मैं उसके जाके गले लगती हूँ, उसको हाथ से सांत्वना देती हूँ, तो बहुत वो भी बहुत खुश होता है। और उससे मुझे बहुत अच्छा रिश्ता है। जैसे कि मेरे घर पे भाई बहन है, वैसे ही उनके साथ भी, जैसे कि वो अभी अभी भी बहुत है। अभी कभी भी जाती हूँगी तो वो रहता है घर पे तो डायरेक्टली मुझे ही देखता है। और मैं भी, वो नहीं रहता है तो बहुत मुझे बुरा लगता है कि कहाँ गया होगा, कहाँ नहीं, कहाँ घूमता होगा। अभी पानी का बहुत प्रॉब्लम है गाँवों में, तो उसने पानी भी पिया होगा कि नहीं। तो वो, और वो कितना भी दूर रहेगा तो उसको एक बार मोरी करके चिल्लाऊंगी तो वो आता है दौड़ के। तो जैसे मेरा इंसानों के साथ रिश्ता है वैसा उनके साथ भी बहुत बड़ा रिश्ता है। और उसे कुछ भी होता है तो वो सब मुझे महसूस होता है। जैसे कि इंसान तो बताता है मुझे ये हुआ वो हुआ, तब हम लोगों को पता चलता है कि हाँ इसे ये हुआ होगा तो ऐसा दर्द होता होगा, ऐसा हुआ होगा। लेकिन जब उसे दर्द होता था वो बताता भी नहीं, कुछ भी नहीं, तो भी मुझे वो महसूस होता है। और एक दिन उसने ना मैंने बहुत सारे बैंगन के पेड़ लगाए थे, तो मैंने इतना उनको पानी दे के हर रोज बहुत बड़े किए थे, और थोड़े बैंगन उसे लगे भी थे। तो मैं बाहर आई थी तब उसने वो पूरे खाए थे। तो मुझे इतना गुस्सा आया, इतना गुस्सा आया, अभी क्या करूं क्या नहीं। बाद में मैं बहुत चिल्लाई भी और ऐसे। तो वो नाराज, मतलब जब मैं उसे डांटती हूँ तो वो नाराज हो जाता है। कभी कभी तो एक बार तो उसने मुझे ऐसा मतलब उसके जो सींग रहते उससे मारा भी था। तो जब मैं डांटी उसे पता चलता है कि ये मुझे अभी डांटती है तो वो बहुत गुस्से में देखता है ऐसे। तो वो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है, क्योंकि जैसे मैं किसी भी इंसान के साथ बात करती हूँ कि हाँ कुछ नहीं हो जाएगा, ऐसा कुछ भी सांत्वना देती हूँ, वैसे ही मैं उसके साथ भी बात करती हूँ तो वो भी बाद में शांत हो जाता है। तो उस दिन बैंगन खाए थे तो मैंने उसे बहुत डांटा था, और लकड़ी लेके मैं उसके पीछे भी दौड़ी थी, क्योंकि मुझे इतना, मैंने इतना छोटे से पेड़ थे तब से मैंने वो बड़े किए थे, और उसे पानी दे के बड़े किए थे। और अचानक देखा तो पूरा खाली करके उसने रखा था, तो मुझे बहुत गुस्सा आया था। लेकिन बाद में मैं दौड़ी थी, और बाद में मुझे बहुत बुरा लगा कि ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए था, क्योंकि उसे भूख लगी होगी तो उसने खाया होगा। लेकिन जैसे कि हम लोग किसी, गुस्सा तो सबको आता है कभी ना कभी किसी ना किसी के ऊपर, वैसे ही मुझे भी आया था। लेकिन बाद में मैंने सोचा कि ऐसे नहीं करना चाहिए था। और फिर से मैं उसके बाद में मैं उसके जाके गले लगती हूँ, वैसे ही हमारा रिश्ता बना रहता है।
थैंक यू सारिका,
थैंक यू।
थैंक यू। सो अब मैं I'll hand over to Prathama and she'll take them. सारिका, अभी हम लोग अपने आप को म्यूट कर लेंगे ताकि प्राथमा और शुभा बात
हाँ।
करेंगे।
Yeah, that really brought lots of smiles. Such a lovely conversation. I'm going to talk a little bit with Shubha. And Shubha and I think we met maybe 2-3 years back, 3-4 years maybe. And I remember one of our first meetings was at this feminist camp that I went to. And I think at that time, I mean, I'm really like Shubha, when she started talking about it, she was talking about this border dispute between India and Nepal right now. And this is one example, but there have been so many of these. You know, so I'm Indian living in Nepal, working here. So I'm really just grateful for the friendship and the community that I've found here. And so Shubha is a friend also. Now over the years, we've had many conversations about, yeah, what gives us joy and what makes it hard for us also. And one of the things that really stands out for me about her work is this, so this intersection of how like the technology has all these possibilities or offers all these possibilities for communities that experience marginalization, and also can be a space where marginalizations and oppressions occur or do happen to communities, you know. And I feel these are this space and the conversations that she has in this space is what has really stood out to me in our conversations in the work. And you know, and yeah, Shubha, would you like to share a little bit about this moment? What you're thinking about, what's going on for you?
Yeah, actually, I've forgotten what I wanted to say after listening to Sarika and Darshana. It was just so warm and then lovely. Thank you so much, Darshana and Sarika. I really, really enjoyed listening to you, and I'm really glad that we are sharing this space for 1 hour. In terms of the work I do, I mean, I've always worked in the area of gender and sexual health, sexual right, and in intersection with other different factors, right? So in that way, like at the moment, I'm trying to learn more in terms of how technology and internet could be linked to this larger area of gender and sexuality. Like whenever I introduce this topic, people always find it amusing. And people who don't necessarily like the word gender or feminism might be very defensive towards saying like, oh, you're bringing gender again in technology. Like, why are you doing this? Right? So it's like constantly having to clarify and justify why we need to think along this line has been this process for me for last, let's say like 4.5 years since I have started exploring this area of work. Like how Prathama was saying earlier, technology, of course, is like a big achievement of human history, no? Like we have gained so much, either it be in the area of visibility, to come across different medicine or different equipment, or let's say in terms of other infrastructural development, but also at the same time, what we in our work try to focus on, it's not neutral because technology is built by human. It's run by human. So the human elements would, of course, be reflected on how the technology is built. When that, what it means is, for example, you know, like this computer that I'm using, or this technology Zoom that I'm using, is probably built in the Western part of the world, most probably by a white person, and could be in some privileged position. So if it is built by a certain category of people with their own kind of identity, how much can they actually build certain kind of technology and maintain it to cater to different kind of people in the world? And often what happens is when it goes to the market, let's say we use social media nowadays, we use other kind of technology, and I'll come back to this whole COVID situation as well, how technology is being used to counter or deal with the pandemic, of how it trickles down and then how it just doesn't become equal for everyone. And that is how the marginalization of certain people would be more by using the same set of technology, right? And yeah, I mean, what is happening at the moment that since the COVID situation started, so of course everyone were panicking. We all were like in distress, trying to hold on to things. And then, yeah, like after a couple of weeks, I guess I started noticing how states, like state body, meaning countries, would start deploying different kind of technology to deal with the situation. And one of the things that has become very obvious and common in a lot of countries, either in the West or in the East or in the South, wherever in different part of the world, is this contact tracing, like that too in a digital form. So meaning they would trace down if the infected person had met anyone and then trying to do the testing done. I'm gonna link this up with, again, going back to how technology is built. Of course, if it is built to empower people, great, like that is what we need, right? But what is also happening is it is giving more power to certain people at the cost of other lives. And these other lives are often not even discussed. They are often ignored. Their voices are not heard when this discussion is happening. Plus, of course, like whoever is in power would want to gain more power, right? Either it be, like through financial or like power in terms of authority or other ways. And then, yeah, like I am a big advocate of internet, like having access to internet and technology, because it is such a big space for especially marginalized community, those who might not have space to speak in the mainstream media or mainstream forum, to have our own voices, to become content creator, to express our sexuality and bodies the way we want. But at the same time, when I want to put my photo in the social media company again regulates. They would have their own kind of rules that are imposed on me. And same with the government. I think a lot of our countries have laws around obscenity or morality, right? And why does that happen? Is again to control certain kind of people that they think would do obscene work, quote unquote, right? Yeah, so again, going back to the COVID situation, how we have started noticing things is like humans have become numbers. It's very quantifiable. It's like, okay, we have 500 infected, the next day it's like certain numbers have increased. So the danger of this quantifiable visits based on humans and then the loss of their stories in between, that is something, it is really scary. And based on the digital tools and technology that the governments are using, are actually just focusing on the quantity rather than what is happening. So what happens is people who are infected or have possibility of at the risk of being infected, the stories of their access to health services, access to space for physical distancing, that is what they're recommending, access to water, what Sarika was mentioning, right? Like not every places have access to water and other kind of facilities. So what is happening to all this kind of stories around? And then now these marginalized communities, I think I was also attending the session earlier about Singaporean immigrant worker, of like how they are the ones who are in margin at the moment and getting more infected. So we are seeing like people who are already been marginalized by society and the countries are again at the risk of this disease. And then, it's just a reflection of how our society has been for like centuries, It just is putting it out there. So yeah, like governments are trying to enforce certain kind of rules on our bodies through technology or like mobility control and other things. And then also as us being affected by the situation and thinking and also assuming that technology is the savior, right? Like, because we are not made to look at things in a critical way, because like not everyone has access to those critical lens first, and other things, those opinions are always repressed. Like once you speak around it, people are going to say like, hey, don't, like, you're not saying right things. So it's not encouraged to talk about those things even in our communities. So that is how like the way we functions are somehow being controlled, managed. The way we think are like those in power are trying to mold it the way they would want it. So yeah, like leaving it in a sad point, but I think that is what I have been thinking more these days.
So I've been learning a lot from the the kind of information and this critical lens that you and Body and Data have been putting out there. So I was just wondering about the ways in which you have been responding, and what some of your hopes might be from this way of responding.
I mean, one is definitely we are focusing, going back to basics of what are our other rights that we think we already have, right? Like, for example, right to privacy. Because my right to privacy is so, like, everyone needs it. Either I'm an able body or like certain caste or class. But what is happening with the COVID situation is by like the pressure is so much on the people to be open and honest about who they were with, where they have been, who they've met, all these kind of discussion. So my right to privacy, the things that I don't want to reveal are being revealed. And without my consent in a lot of cases, like I might not even have a choice to whether or not I want to share certain elements, right? So that is one thing we have been talking about, that all our human rights should not be compromised on the base of something else. Like here, we are almost like given a choice to choose between health and privacy, whereas it's not exactly the case, right? Like there are ways to assure our health, like access to health services, access to other kind of facilities, and also protect our privacy, because that is very, very important. And, at the loss of privacy, what happens is, again, it affects those in the marginalized even further. Let's say, for example, like in our communities, let's say in Nepal or in India, we have a lot of violence towards trans women or like people with certain kind of sexuality that is not accepted by society. So let's say if a trans person's identity as a trans person gets in the public, like imagine the kind of risk that person might have. There has been already evidence of people from minority communities and also Muslim communities being attacked by mob. And there has been like such a big violent behavior towards certain communities. Like, so we are putting people at further risk. That is what we are seeing. The other thing is also to talk about, the other thing we have been doing now is to talk about misinformation. Because what is happening is, in terms of COVID, the misinformation people are talking about is around like, oh yeah, this food is gonna cure or help with the virus and stuff like that. But also not to forget the human elements to it, right? Like if misinformation actually gets there, it's not just health, but it's also like other impact, such as this privacy, such as like how state would look at us, such as how our other rights, for example, freedom of expression. I don't know if you have had those kind of stories in your country, but in our country, people like civilians and journalists were arrested just because they were saying something about the government or the law enforcement agencies, right? So how our freedom of expression is being controlled in the name of controlling the disease. So I don't know if they're controlling the disease or people. So also talking around it. Yeah, so basically building in more intersection and then talking about COVID in that sense.
Thank you so much, Shubha, for just sharing these things and bringing attention to all these different things that are happening in the midst of this. Thank you.
Thank you to you too.
You will talk to Shahid now. Jahanzeb and Shahid.
I have the pleasure of having a conversation with Shahid. I think Shahid is known to all three of us, and all of us were very, very excited to have him here. I first met Shahid at an interview actually for a training program that he was, and I think he and I have like had an instant connection of the heart. He's one of the most amazing people I've seen working with children. His love for children, his commitment to the community, but I think more than anything, his just ability to form connections with people is something that I've just absolutely always admired and been sort of so in love with Shahid. And he gives the best hugs in the world. I think that's the thing that stands out most about him. So welcome, Shahid. And I know Shahid works with an organization right now called Apni Shala that works in the municipal schools in Mumbai. and focuses on socio-emotional learning. So he was keen to talk a little bit about his work with teachers and with children. And so over to you, Shai.
Thank you, Jay, for such a lovely introduction. I think I am really missing those hugs right now. It has been a very tough time for all of us, and I just wish that these hugs are most of the times acts as a medicines for all of us, and which is basically a slap on medicines. Some things for us to hug all of us together and be this, and give this collective hug together. I'm very, I felt a sense of connection with Darshana's and Sharika's and Shubha's too. And thank you all. Thank you for sharing all these things that you have shared. Something what I think I'll be talking about my work, and then I'll be sharing a recent experience that very much connects with Shubha, but just something with what Shubha shared. Uh, so as Jay mentioned, I closely work with children of government schools and teachers of government school, and you know that the COVID situation has brought a lot of problems and challenges for all of us who have been at margins. And recently, yesterday, it was that I was having this conversation with a bunch of teachers of government schools that we work with, and we were just checking in and how they're doing and what are some of the things that they are focusing on, what are some of the supports that we can build around for all of us, for each other. And I happened to hear this teacher who constantly gave this monologue of 2 minutes, and just how she's feeling a sense of guilt, and how often this self-doubt visits to her because of this idea of getting onto online world, teaching students online, and she knows that, and she further adds that the government knows that 80% of the students of the government students are not do not have this access of reaching out or getting education online, and and still how this is such a foolishness of of still introducing this idea, and forcing teachers and blaming them for not being able to do that at this. So so this teacher again keeps on telling that that the online platform has brought a lot of. So she has this she works with almost 120 students, and she's just being able to reach out to 4 or 5 because maximum number of families does not have an Android phone, and then she feels this, that she's not able to reach out, and then there's this anxiety and then this suffering that is all going on in this circle. And and then I happened to ask her that who are some of the people who are helping you to get distant with this self-doubt and this emotion that you're feeling right now. And she suddenly say that all my students with whom I'm talking right now, they are supporting me to get distant with this emotion. So it has been a complete uh, chaos and a big challenge for all of us who are living at the margins. I see myself, my community that we live in right now. We comprise with 70% of the population that is totally based on daily wage salaries, and all of us right now is in such a mess that that we have to, a lot of families right now are living on government meals, and there's this constant fear of what will I do in next 4 months, where will be my journey ending, do I have to shift my village, how will I reach to my village, do I have to go by. I know a few neighbors of mine who have just uh, gave up on everything, and they decided to go by walking, and just they said कि ऊपर वाला जो भी है वो कर लेगा. So it has brought a lot of challenges for educators, for people at the margins, and my mother especially. I feel I share a very close relationship with her. She has been my superhero, super mom all the time, and it has been tough for her as well. That recently she lost her mother, and the not able to meet her that much, still holds her so much in pain, and we in India hold relationship, give a lot of relationship importance to our relationships, and at this time we're not able to do that, and my mother is not able to do that. So that's a very, I'm just sharing whatever that is coming up for me in my life right now. And
Is it okay for me to ask you one question?
yes,
So I think one of the things I also know about you is that, and that I'm very inspired by, is your ability to hold on to hope. Amidst so many different things and difficulties that you described, and I think um, it would be wonderful if you could just share a little bit about how you do that, some of the things you do for yourself and with the children and the community.
so so I have been checking it with my I mean it's a mutual process. I generally, it's not only me who is checking, all my students to my share my space of education. I think they have been checking in with me on constant basis. It's just that I have to call, and the next question they ask is, Bhaiya, how are you? So this "how are you" is so therapeutic. I cannot express my gratitude, how much gratitude I feel for the work that I do. I think it's all that. Children are magic, and I think they are the hope right now in my life. And the teacher who shared about this incident, that her student make her feel hopeful about this situation. I think I hold on to that, and at the same time, at family, I think in my family we're doing this. We're trying to have our lunch together so that we can focus on all other alternate stories of our lives. And yesterday we were talking about my grandmother who recently we lost, and we were talking about stories that she used to tell us, and my mother constantly spent, went and talking about her and how she used to take care of us. So holding on to those stories, holding on to people, with people like constantly having conversations around the globe, taking, spreading these boundaries and reaching out to people as much as we can. People like Shubha, Sarika, and Darshana who are sharing our stories that are very important to be heard, and at the same time writing poetries to hope for social change. Poetries have been one of the best resources of me to hold on. I sometimes also look at the clouds and make meanings out of it, because I believe that uh, clouds have this sense of have this notion of making feel people good about themselves. They're therapeutic in nature. I think everyone, just what Sharika shared, everything in the nature is therapeutic. So holding on to the nature also.
Thank you so much, Shahid. I think we're close to the end of our hour, so um, uh, I'm going to hand it over to you, Stephen, so that you can have it.
Uh,
Thank you so much to everybody for being here.
yes. What a absolute honor and joy to have listened for the last hour and every expression. Thank you so much, everybody, for your contributions to this wave. Uh, I'm excited to explore possibilities with all of y'all as we go forward. Thank you. Thank you.